Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. So we're gonna go to the start over the Chumash of the day. Continue in Parshas Truma. I got another book of pictures, so maybe it will help us out in the seeing the beautiful vessels of the Mishkan. Okay, holding on chapter 25, verse number 17. Vasisa kapetis, you shall make the ark cover. The ark cover shall be, I can show you this picture over here. This picture over here, you see it's made out of one piece of gold. And from this one piece of gold, they slowly formed out these beautiful cherubim. So it was made out of one piece of gold, one block of gold. It started off with one block of gold. And slowly from that, they had to hammer out the cover and the cherubims. So that's what the verse says. Vasisa kapeda zahavta, you shall make the cover pure gold. Amasayim v'chetzi arka, it has to be half a cubit its length. V'ama v'chetzi rafwa, and a half a cubit its width. So that's just the kapedus is the cover of the ark. That was the cover. It was called the kapedus. Like above it, Moses placed the cover above it like a board. Like the length of the ark, its width was like the width of the ark, and would lay on the thickness of the four walls. Although Scripture does not give the measure of its thickness, our rabbis explained it was a handbreadth thick. Handbreadth is this big. Verse number 18. Vasisa shnayim kruvim, you to make two golden cherubim. Zahav comes, you make it them from hammered work. Zahav miksha tasa isam. You have to be hammered out of that block. So it was not like two cherubim that were made separately and glued on or soldered onto the cover. It had to come out from the cover. Mishnei tzavas hakarpeidos, from the two ends of the cover of the ark. So Rashi says, keruvim, cherubim, they had features of a child. Brought down one face of a boy and one face of a girl. You shall hammer it out its work. This means that you should not make them separate and then join them at the end of the ark cover after they were made, as the smith do in the process called soldering. So instead, you shall make a large quantity of gold at the beginning of the construction of the ark, cover and beat it with a hammer and with a malt in the center of the mass of gold, so that the end produces upwards. And then you should form cherubim from it. So that's exactly what this picture shows you. So they were one piece of gold. You hammered it out slowly but surely. It reached up to. I'm not a smith. Slowly but surely, it moved upwards, and ultimately, you came out. If you were a professional, you came out with such two beautiful cherubim, and that way it looked. Two cherubim. Okay, let's continue. Miksha, so Rashi says, hammered. Tzeisa kaparis, Rashi, the ends of the ark. Verse 19. Make a cherub on one end and a cherub on the other end. Minha kaparis, from the cover. Tasos akruvim, you should, from the cover, the kruvim have to come out from the two ends of the cover. Rashi does that. The Torah comes to teach us so that you not say that it means two cherubim at the end. Therefore, it explains one cherub from one end and one cherub from the other end. Again, mina kapeiros, the Torah emphasizes that it should make that it should be you should make this cherubim from the cover. This is the meaning. You shall make them hammered work. It should not make them separately. We need to come out of the cover. This is very extremely talented work. Verse 20. The cherubim shall have their wings spread upwards. They spread upwards, shielding the ark with their wings. And the faces should face one another. Towards the ark cover shall be the faces of the cherubim. So Rashi says, this means you shall not make their wings lying down, resting next to their body, but spread high along their heads, as you see in this picture. Spread high along that's how it is spread. Spread high along, as you see in this picture. So that's the way it needs to be done. But spread high in the bed so that there should be a handbreadth in the space between the wings and the ark cover, as is stated in Masechta Kesubot. Verse 21. And then you take the cover, place the ark cover, and you place it on the ark. In the ark, you need to put the 10 Commandments. So Rashi says, I don't know why it was repeated. We said it already before. It's already said, you shall place the ark of testimony. It says that before already. We may say that it comes to teach us that when the ark is still an ark alone, without an ark cover, Moses put first, placed the ark cover over it. So we find that when Moses erected the Mishkan, it said, and he placed the testimony into the ark, and afterwards he placed the ark cover above it. Verse 22. And I will arrange my meeting with you there. This is what God says, I speak from a very specific place. I will speak to you, me'al hakapodes, from the top of the cherubim, from the top of the cover, mibein shnei hakeruvim, from between the two cherubim, asher al Aaron, which is upon the Aaron of testimony, as kol ashani mitzavcha atavecha Israel b'nei Israel, everything that I command to you, to the Jewish people. So Rashi says, I'll arrange my meeting with you when I will arrange a meeting for you to speak with you. As Moshe Rabbeinu was called to the tent of meeting after the Mishkan was built, where God spoke to him from that place. So from that place I will come and I will speak to you from that place. I'll speak to you from the top of the ark. But elsewhere it says, and the Lord spoke to him from the tent of meeting. That is the Mishkan, outside the dividing curtains, where the ark was within the dividing curtains. So where did he speak to him from? He spoke to him from the cherubim, or he spoke to him from the tent of meeting? The two verses are found to contradict one another. The third verse comes and reconciles them. And when Moshe came into the tent of meeting, he heard the voice speaking to him from the top of the ark cover. The solution is that Moshe would enter the Mishkan. As soon as he came into the doorway, a voice would descend from the heaven to the place between the cherubim. From there it emanated and was heard by Moshe Rabbeinu in the tent of meeting. And the miracle was that only Moshe Rabbeinu heard the voice, and nobody else heard that voice, as it says later. Wherever I will command you unto the children of Israel. So Rashi says the vav, the s. The vav adds a meaning. Vav is end. It's superfluous. And there are many similar examples in the Torah, and you shall interpret it as thus. And all that I speak to you, with you, there, is that I will command you unto the children of Israel. Everything you're going to hear from that place. That's the holiness of the ark. The ark was the holiest vessel in the Beis Hamikdash. Now the Torah goes to the next vessel, the Shulchan, which was called the bread table, the Shulchan. and this is the shulchan, the bread table. And here was put on the 12 loaves that was sat in the Mishkan, in the base of Mishkan, the Beis Hamikdash, a whole week. And I'm going to show you some nice pictures about it. Here is the way the shulchan looked. This was the shulchan and the 12 loaves that were on it. This was called in Hebrew the lechem haponim, the bread that had a face, so to say. You see, there's like a matzah that faced one another. It was like bent in that they faced one another. It was also extremely not an easy thing to do. It was something that the Kohanim needed to know how to make this kind of bread. It was extremely, you see over here, you have another picture, lechem haponim, bread that faced each other, had lips that faced it, so it looked like this, or some people say it looked like this, the other picture. So it was not bread, because it was matzah, there was no bread in the Beis Hamikdash. So there was a special place in the temple where they made this bread. Verse 23, we're going to go into it right now. Vasisha shulchan, you shall make a table. Atze shittim, made out of acacia wood. Amasayim orkai, it's 2 cubits length. V'hama rachbai, and 1 cubit its width. V'hama v'chetzika masei, and 1.5 cubits its height. So now she says, goiva ragalim eva shulchan, the height of its legs together with the thickness of the shulchan. So the shulchan itself is basically a table. As you show you a picture, it's basically a table. This is a table. Basically, this is called a shulchan, which is called today the same thing, a shulchan, the table. Verse 24, v'tzipisa isav zav tahar. Then over this wooden table, it needs to be overlay of pure gold. You never saw the wood. Everything was covered by gold in this Mishkan. Even the walls, as we're soon going to come to it, everything was covered by gold. And you need to make a crown of gold around it. So this table had a crown of gold, as you can see right over there, a crown of gold around it. A crown of gold. That's the crown of gold. A crown of gold around it. So the Aaron had a crown of gold, and the Mizbeach had a crown of gold. Here's another picture. Crown of, this is what the table looks like over here, and a crown of gold around it. Very ornate table. And over there you see the bottom, as the Torah is going to tell us, that the bottom, you needed to have rings that they carried it with. So that's also part of this reading. We'll soon see in a second. So now she says, there were certain vessels that had a crown of gold. We just know the menorah had a crown, and the shulchan had a crown. So the Rashi says, so the Aaron had a crown. We just read that in the yesterday, and the shulchan had a crown. So Rashi says, Siman Klekesa Malchus, symbolic to the crown of kingship. For the table represented wealth and greatness, as it says, the royal table. So the table was symbolic to kingship. The Aaron was symbolic to the Torah. So that's why the Aaron had a crown. That's one of the reasons why we put a crown today on a Torah, like the Aaron that had a crown, and the Shulchan had a crown. Verse 25. You should make a frame. You should make it from a frame, a handbreadth wide, all around, and it shall have golden crown from its frame all around. So Rashi says, the sages of Israel offer concerning this matter. Some say that it was above, extending the tabletop, around the table, like a rim at the edge of the table, princes. Some say that it was below. So the question, how this, so you can see like this picture. There's two ways that they say. Some say the crown was below the tabletop. Some say it was on top of the tabletop. So there's always an argument in Jewish law. And exactly the way it was. We'll have to wait for Mashiach to come and we'll know exactly the way it was. You shall make a crown above mentioned as explained to you how above its frame. Verse number 26. This is the 4 rings that you carried it with. The rings that you put the poles in. You shall put the rings on the 4 corners of the 4 legs. Verse 27. The ring shall be opposite the frame as holders for the poles. Lases es hashulchan, to make the table. So Rashi says that the ring should be opposite the frame. He's on the legs, inserted opposite the end of the frame. Labatim, levata, lavadim, those rings shall be holders in which to insert the poles. Verse 28. Vasisa sabadim. Now it says you should make the badim, should make the poles. Also out of acacia wood. But then you have to overlay it zav, with gold. And with these poles you carry the table. Verse 29. Vasisa kadav, and then you shall make forms. Kapais, you should make spoons. Bekashias, half pipes. Uminiches, and asher yusabem, and you should, and it supports with its supports, which is covered with gold. You shall make them. So Rashi says, it is the form that was made according to the shape of the bread. So this is the kares. I'm going to show you a picture. So this is the kares. The kares was a gold. It was like a shelf. So the bread was put into a shelf. The shelves. This was the spoons, kapais, the spoons. This was kashias, the tubes. So basically, this is the way it was. This is the way it looked like. And those what do you call it? The shelves were put in between those rods, and they rested in between the rods. And that's the way the bread was on the shulchan, as you see it over here. Let's continue. Let's learn the Rashi. Continue. Kapes bezichen. These were spoons which of frankincense were placed. There were 2 spoons, and 1 handful of frankincense was placed on 2 stacks. And it says, "You shall place the stacks of frankincense," so that they were put on the bottom of the shulchan. You can see a picture, maybe. Okay, here's another picture. And you see the cups on the bottom of the table. It's hard maybe to see right over there. There's 2 little spoons that they were put in there. Frankincense that laid over there gave a beautiful smell to these 12 loaves. So now she says, so these were the manikios, were the branches, the poles that these were the poles that the shelves and the lechem upon them stood upon. All was covered with gold. And then on this shulchan, you had to put showbreads. Lefanai tamid, before me at all times. So now she says, sheyesh lem panim. As I tell you, the bread was made like with a face one to another. Kamosha pirashti, as I explained. And the number of breads and the order they were stacked is all explained in later on in Leviticus. So we'll have to wait for Leviticus to know exactly how everything was done. So this was called the Shulchan, the table of bread, the showbread table. As we know that the showbread table was there from Erev Shabbos to Erev Shabbos. They put the showbread on it. We symbolically do the showbread today. That some people hold. That's why we have on Shabbos. We have two challahs that look like a vav. One challah, they look like a vav. Vav and vav is 6 and 6 is 12. So they both look like a vav and a vav. Two challahs. Vav is 6 and vav is 6. So that's symbolic to the 12 showbreads that were on the shulchan in the Beit Hamikdash. And that finishes the Chumash of the day. We are now going to the Tanya of the day, which is on the third day of Adar. We're starting the 30th chapter of Tanya. The Alter Rebbe is trying to give us advice to overcome the thickness of our heart, Timtum Alev. How does the Beinoni overcome the thickness of his heart and the indifference that he has sometimes, which is very difficult to him to overcome? So the first idea was to break his heart, and he should create times where he knows how he's humble and that he needs to beg God forgiveness for all his sins, etc. So the Alter Rebbe says, I'll give you another way. One who suffers Tintum Alev, L'kayim Maimed Abeseinu Zechein L'Bracha. If you want to do this, you should do this by doing the following thing. What our sages say, Shval Ruach B'fnei Kol Adam. Be lowly of spirit before every man. This is a statement in Pirkei Avos. So let's look at the interpretation over here. It says, now a number of commentators have noted a difficulty in this Mishnah dictum. For the Hebrew language, distinguish between two types of humility. The first is feeling inferior, comparison with the other. The second is the absence of self-glorification, even while recognizing one's superiority. The thought of that superior quality are a God-given gift, and that another man simply endowed might be a fact if invested them in a better advantage. So it's not that the concept of a person knows his greatness, but he realizes it's a gift. And he basically was given this gift, and therefore he has no right to be boastful. The former type of humility is called shiflus, which means lowness. The latter, anius. Since the Mishnah employs the word shval ruach, it's explicitly advocating a former type of humility. And here the difficulty arises. Why should one regard himself as being lower than every man? Lower even than the lowest sinner. So because of this difficulty, some commentators interpret the Mishnah as saying, conduct yourself self-effacing towards another man. Meaning, treat every man with difference as though he was superior to you. The Alter Rebbe, however, rejects to this interpretation as follows. The words be thus. When the pasuk said, when the Mishnah says, heaven, be lowly of spirit, be'emes lamita, that means really you should be. B'fnei kol adam mamish, in the presence of every man, means mamish, really, even the presence of the most lowliest person. Person should be shuffle. He should lower himself to the lowest of every human being. How is that possible? And why would a person say that he should make himself lower than every human being, even the lowest of human beings? Answers. according to the statement of our sages, nobody should judge anybody until you're in his shoes, until you're in his place. What does that mean? That means that everybody should judge. Everybody should say that the person that is sinning is the place made him sin. He was brought up in the wrong situation. He's in the wrong environment. And because he's in the wrong environment, that brings him to sin. Poor guy, this guy, his parnasa makes him go out in the marketplace all day. And he those who sits in the street corners. Thus, and his eye sees all sorts of temptation. And the eye that sees, and the heart desires. And therefore, this poor person, he might be a very low person, but his situation forced him into this lowliness. And his evil inclination is burning in him like a baker's fury oven. It's brought on the prophet Isaiah, who burned a cage lava. It's like a burning fire, etc. So therefore, you have to always judge everybody to the positive. And you have to always realize that if you were in his circumstances, maybe you would have been worse. Thank God that God didn't put you in his circumstances. Different, however, one doesn't go out much in the marketplace. And most of the day, he sits at home. He doesn't have to hang around the corners of the street. He's not a guy that was a wild lad thrown out of his house, roamed the streets. Do we know what everybody has gone through in their life and the struggles that they had? And even if you might say that you're going a whole day in the market, maybe you don't have a nature like he had a nature. So maybe this poor guy had to go into the street. This poor guy had a natural inclination to be influenced by the street and to give in to his temptations. So therefore, it's a rachmanas in this guy. Because the impulse of every person is not equal. And some people, some people have the Yetzirah for as I explained before. So some people, the Eibishter gave them a bigger challenge. Some people have addictive kind of personality. That's a big rachmanis, that the Eibishter gave him addictive personality. And they're very easily influenced by others. Are we going to? Do I have a right to condemn such a person? Do I have a right to say that I'm greater than him because I don't have an addictive personality? I have to thank God I don't have addictive personality. And if you want to talk the truth, even if you can say, Mo, my nature is also to be hot, so to say. I get also excited over everything. And I'm always in the market. Look at that. I don't get involved in evil things. He has no excuse whatsoever of his sins. We're not giving an excuse. I'm not giving an excuse for somebody who goes out and sins. Because everybody, even though you're an excited guy, even though you're an addictive person, even though you were hanging around in the streets and you didn't have a good background and your background was not such a happy situation, doesn't make giving you an excuse. We're not giving excuses for anybody to sin. Everybody, doesn't make a difference where you were born and what background where you were born, what kind of nature you have, what kind of tendencies you have. You have to overcome it. There's no excuses. We're talking about the way a person looks at himself and the way a person looks at somebody else. The way a person looks at somebody else, you should have rachmanis. A person looks at himself, got to make yourself better. There's no excuses. You can't blame it on your mother and your grandmother, on the school, on the environment, can't do that. Doesn't work. Because everybody should control himself. Because the fear of God, at least it was a fear of God, that sees his actions. As I explained before. That I explained before, that the mind over matter. So everybody has the capability to overcome. So there's the way I look at myself and I look at somebody else. That's why there was one Frierdiker Rebbe, the People's Rebbe once said, I asked my father when I was a child, why does a human being have two eyes? Why does he have one nose, one mouth? Why does he have two eyes, a right eye and a left eye? So he said the right eye is chesed, is the way you look at somebody else. The left eye is gevura, is the way you look at yourself. You always look at somebody else, don't judge him. And then you look at yourself and you should judge yourself. And you should work on yourself. You shouldn't say, oh, this is my circumstances, this is the way I was born. Oh, if I was there, if I was someplace else. No, maybe should put you in that place. And God knows exactly what he given you, the taivas that he gave you and the yetzer hara that he gave you. And he said, I want you to overcome it. I want you to have mind over matter. Even though this is a great struggle, even though this is a great struggle, I'm not denying it. And it burns like a burning flame within you. For the fear of God indeed is like a nesayin mamish to the person who has a struggle with his yetzer hara, his evil inclination, to a person that struggles with his nature, to a person that struggles with his addiction, like that's a big struggle. That's an nesayin. That's like mamish, a nesayin, like Avraham Avinu. Therefore, I'm telling you, every person must weigh lifi mashu mekayim madragas. Don't look at somebody else. Have rachmanis on somebody else. Judge always somebody else to the positive, and look at yourself. Look at yourself. Your according to your standard. What does the God want from you? To place and rank in the divine service. Does he serve God? Does he serve God in a situation requiring comparative struggle in a manner with the mention of free battle and test? In another person has that struggle or not? So therefore, a person has to realize that he has to fight this war. He cannot have excuse. Oh, I'm better than somebody else. Oh, look how bad that guy is. I'm better than him. So that, as it says it over here, even the most dispassionate and cloistered of men must often engage in a battle with his evil inclination, both in the area of doing good and turning away from evil, as the Alter Rebbe goes on. And so too in the realm of doing good. Has to pray with God with devotion. My mom just pour out to God with his whole strength. Until the extent of a wringing out of his soul, meaning exhausting all his intellect and emotion and power and devotion. To fight with his animalistic soul that is holding him back from his kavanah. So in essence, the problem is, why don't we do this war, the Alter Rebbe is saying? Because we look at ourselves like we look at others. We judge ourselves almost. We justify ourselves in a way. We judge everybody else to the bad. We say, oh, why isn't he better? But we judge ourselves always to the good. Oh, this is who we are, this is who we are. Oh, he has to be better. We should flip it around. We should never judge anybody else, and we should judge ourselves. We should fight with ourselves, make ourselves better. The Baal Shem Tov says, why did God, it's divine providence that God brought you in contact with a person that is evil, because it's telling you, just like you're judging that person, look in the mirror, my friend. Look in the mirror. I need to look in the mirror myself. And I need to say, I need to become a different person. That's the Hashgacha process, why I met this negative person. It's all looking in the mirror for yourself and to change yourself. You're not here to change somebody else. You're here to have compassion upon that other person. And the reason why God brought you the situation is to change yourself. Is that basically the negative that I see in others is because it's within me. And if I was a righteous person, I would never see a negative thing within anybody else. I would always judge everybody to the positive. But that I judge somebody to the negative is because I have negativity within myself. So if I can bring myself always to look positive at everybody, that will bring the positive out within me. But until then, the reason why I saw that, the reason why I'm judgmental, is because I need to have the war within myself. I need to fight. I need to go out to war with my evil inclination, with character, with my hang-ups, with my whatever it might be. And I got to fight him like a crushing and grinding them like dust every single day before the morning and evening prayer. And also, gam b'shas haTefillah, and even during prayer. Le'agea atzmi gias nefesh. He must exert with the exertion of spirit, so that his spirit should not grow weary and lengthy contemplation of the greatness of God, and exertion of the body to remove the hindrance to devotion imposed upon his body, as explained further at length. So we know the Zohar says the time of prayer okay, and that completes the Tanya of the day. Powerful, very powerful Tanya of the day. Today is the third day of the month, which starts on chapter 18 in your Tillim. You have Psalms chapter 18 and 19, 20, 21, 22. So 18 to chapter 22, and you would have done the Tillim of the day. Have a beautiful, wonderful, happy, healthy, gorgeous day.
You too, Rabbi. Thank you so much.
Bye.